Blood soaked through the pale fabric of her torn dress before Rose Mallister even realized she had been cut. At first, there was no pain, only a strange hollowness, as if her body was floating somewhere far from the sun beating down on her skin. She didn't feel the grit of the sand as it bit into her bare knees. She didn't feel the wind tugging at her tangled hair. What she felt was terror, sharp, wild terror that wrapped around her ribs tighter than the bruise blooming on her waist. Just an hour earlier, her father had shoved her out the front door of their failing farm. His eyes were glazed from whiskey, his breath thick with it. He shouted that she was the last thing he had left to barter. That if she didn't marry Caleb Price by sundown, he'd lose the house, the land, and even the right to bury himself on his own dirt. Rose begged him. Pleaded. But her father swung his hand and struck her so hard the sound echoed across the empty yard like a gunshot. That was when she ran. She snatched a small kitchen knife as she fled, the only thing she managed to grab. Barefoot, half-dressed, choking on tears, she ran until her legs trembled under her. When she tried to leap across a narrow ditch, her right foot landed wrong. Something inside her ankle popped like a snapping twig. She went down hard, screaming into the open prairie, but no one heard. Still she crawled, clawing at the ground, because she knew Caleb's men were somewhere behind her. Fear pushed her farther than hope ever could. A wooden fence shimmered ahead in the heat waves. Salvation. All she needed was one last burst of strength. She grabbed the top rail, but her fingers slipped, and a rusted nail snagged her dress, dragging across her waist. The sharp rip of fabric was followed by the sharper rip of skin. Hot blood spilled down her hip as she fell onto the other side of the fence. Her breath came in a broken sob. Yellow grass spun into blue sky. She whispered for help, but her voice cracked. Ahead of her, through a haze of dust and pain, sat a ranch, small gate, open yard, and a barn leaning like an old man tired of standing. If she could reach it, maybe someone inside would save her. Maybe someone would hear her before Caleb's men did. Rose dragged herself forward with everything she had left. The torn dress clung to her legs. Her ankle throbbed with every inch. Blood dripped steadily behind her, marking her path across the dirt. When she finally reached the gate, her body gave out. Her arms buckled. Her cheek hit warm dust. The world dimmed at the edges. Through fading sight, she saw a shape walking toward her, a tall silhouette, broad-shouldered, hat pulled low, a dark shadow carved against the blazing sun. She forced out one breath, one final plea. Please. The stranger crouched beside her. Rough hands, warm, steady, lifted her from the dirt. And everything went black. Rose woke slowly, as though rising out of thick water. The first thing she felt was wood beneath her back, a flat table warmed by the sun. Then she felt the presence of someone standing above her, broad as a barn door, casting a long shadow over her. Panic surged. She tried to sit up, but pain sliced through her ankle and waist. The man placed a weathered palm near her shoulder, firm but gentle. Just lie still, please. His voice was low, steady, like someone who had seen storms and outlived them all. As Rose blinked the blur from her eyes, his features sharpened. Rugged face, short beard, lines at the corners of his eyes from long days under the Kansas sun. He looked like someone carved by the land itself. Men like him didn't usually bring strangers into their homes. And they definitely didn't rescue them without reason. Then he said quietly, "Show me your feet." Her cheeks flushed. She'd never heard a stranger say something like that, especially while she lay half-conscious on his table, dress torn at the waist. But her ankle throbbed mercilessly, and pride was a luxury she no longer had. He lifted the hem of her dress enough to inspect the swelling. The bruise around her ankle had turned a deep, ugly purple. She gasped when his fingers pressed gently along the bone. "Not broken," he murmured. "Just twisted pretty bad." His calmness unsettled her more than anger would have. Then his hand moved toward the rip at her waist. Instinct exploded inside her. She grabbed the small knife she'd hidden in her dress and aimed it at his chest. The man caught her wrist before the blade touched his shirt, firm, but not hurting her. Her voice cracked. "Did Caleb send you to take me back? I would rather die than go with him." The man didn't flinch. He slowly raised his free hand, palm open. "If I meant you harm, you wouldn't be lying on my table." Something in his eyes, something heavy, old, made her hesitate. After a long breath, she loosened her grip. He took a cloth, dipped it in water, and cleaned the cut at her waist. She hissed as the sting hit, but his touch stayed steady. Behind him, the ranch was silent except for wind and a distant horse breaking the stillness. Yet beneath that quiet, Rose sensed something else. Something the man wasn't saying. He wrapped her waist with practiced hands. She whispered a soft thank you. He nodded once, pulled up a chair beside her, and sat. "You got someone chasing you." His calm voice carried weight. Rose told him everything, her father's debts, the forced marriage, Caleb Price's cold smile, the strike across her face, and the frantic escape across the prairie. Elias listened without interrupting. His jaw tightened only once. "Caleb Price isn't a man who forgets what he thinks he owns," he finally said, voice edged like a blade. Before Rose could ask more, hooves approached the yard. An older cowboy rode in, Hank from the neighboring ranch. He spotted Rose and his smile fell. "Caleb's men are sniffing around town," he warned. "The kind of men who brag about what they do when no one's watching." Hank glanced at Elias. "You sure you want this mess? A man with your history usually avoids attention." Rose lifted her head. "Your history?" Silence dropped heavy. Elias stared at the ground. What kind of man had she trusted with her life? Minutes later, 2 riders arrived, Caleb's hired guns. They demanded to know if Elias had seen a girl in a torn dress. Elias stood calm, hand near his rifle. "Just cows and dust out here." They searched the barn. One man wandered too close to where Rose hid. Before he could take another step, Elias appeared in the doorway. "You lost something." He slammed the man against a beam. The other reached for his pistol, but Elias fired first. The bullet sliced the brim off the man's hat, sending it spinning into the dirt. A warning shot. A perfect one. The men fled, shouting, "Caleb will hear about this." Rose trembled. She had just seen a glimpse of who Elias really was. Caleb Price returned himself, 3 armed men behind him. Too clean, too confident. "Bring the girl out," Caleb demanded. "She's my claim." "She's not a claim," Elias said quietly. "And she's under my roof now." Caleb's eyes narrowed, recognition dawning. "Elias Boone," he whispered. "Blackhand Boone, the man who wiped out the double-cross gang." Elias lifted his rifle just enough for the sun to catch the barrel. A single shot hit the dirt at Caleb's horse. The animal reared. Caleb, pale-faced, barely held on. "Keep her then," he stammered, and rode off. When silence returned, Elias looked at Rose, softer now, the storm inside him settling. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "No one is coming to take you again." For the first time since she ran, Rose believed it. And as she held Elias's gaze, she realized something simple but powerful. Sometimes the very past a man tries hardest to bury becomes the reason someone else survives.